Hello, welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. What did I just read? I am completely traumatized. First, Higurashi no cry, or Nakukoroni. Higurashi when they cry did this, and now this. What is with Japan and torturing kids? I. I'm happy you're alive. I raise my eyes from the diary, reflexively staring up into Amane's face. Her eyes are downcast, her mouth twisted sorrowfully.
ねえ、ユージは孤独って知ってる?
Cockroaches? From what I've read about them, they're incredibly durable creatures. They can last for weeks without food, and sometimes cannibalize each other.
私はね、毒虫を詰め込んだ壺の中から生き残った最強最悪の毒虫なのよ。
Don't tell me. Were those two girls there? Other girls that survived? I can't find anything to say. I'm so sorry. That must have been terrible. I've gone through something similar myself. The comparison would be unfair. The paths we followed to that point were far too different. Even so, I understand. Thrown abruptly into a rain-soaked hell without adequate food, unable to imagine what tomorrow will bring, your physical and emotional strength are slowly whittled down. The ones wobbling on their feet have a week, the ones sitting 5 days, the ones lying down 3, the ones that can't speak 2, and the ones that can't blink will be dead before the sun sets. At some point, you've lost the energy to dig graves for your companions. You sleep next to the rotting corpses of your friends. Hell on earth. Precisely because I understand, I have no words to offer. I seek refuge in the tattered diary in my hands. Returning home as the only survivor of that horrific accident, my reception wasn't what you could call gentle. The media widely discussed the incident and its miraculous survivor, spicing up their articles with a barrage of thoughtless and downright cruel speculation. While never publishing my actual name, many twisted their limited information to suggest my survival had come at the cost of my humanity. I was that social problem of the hour. When I returned to school after recovering my physical strength, a classmate thrust a weekly magazine in my face. It was open to a gory photograph of the crash scene as it had been discovered. Hey, this corpse, this is Hiraka's face, isn't it? Poor girl. So tell me something. Why were you the only one who survived? Everyone else died. Why are you the only one who came back? Of course, at that age, the gruesome and bizarre have an irresistible pull. At first, the words might have been nothing but curiosity, carrying no ill intent. At first, they might not have even realized their own casual cruelty. Wait, they called her a cockroach because she's the one that got away. So she became a social outcast. But that first question opened the floodgates. Soon the entire class was hurling questions at me, mostly for their own amusement. Hey, you ate them, didn't you? Base speculation always runs along predictable outlines. Better the titillating fiction than the complicated truth. How can she live with herself? It makes me want to puke. Yeah. So people at school bullied her. after that happened. I wouldn't have done it in a million years. Some things are more important than staying alive. I'd rather starve to death. Just seeing her face makes me lose my appetite. I hope she transfers soon. Soon they spoke with undisguised hatred. My denials fell on deaf ears, and I stopped even trying. In their eyes, I was a cockroach, a vicious, durable insect inside the confines of the killing jar. I had killed my own kind to survive, and now I had crawled back to safety all alone. It quickly became impossible for me to attend school normally. Before long, a special classroom was prepared for me to study alone. The administration's attempt at resolving the problem was half-hearted and passive. Essentially, they isolated me from my classmates, leaving my former homeroom teacher to take care of any problems that might arise. But since their main concern was minimizing further disruption, the choice made sense. Unfortunately, that teacher was a kind woman who offered me warm encouragement. It's alright. As long as you're alive, you can start again as many times as it takes. I'm here for you. I'll be here as long as it takes. So please keep trying. Okay? Her words pulled me through some of the blackest days. She was right. My survival had come at the cost of many, many sacrifices. I had to keep going. For the sake of those who had died. And for the people who still believed in me. But eventually, I was made to realize these innocent thoughts were founded on nothing more than childish naivety. Half a year after the accident, I moved up to the next grade in a new homeroom, and the teacher who had treated me so kindly abruptly stopped her little therapy sessions. Her attitude changed. The sympathy left her eyes. In the end, her kindness had been nothing more than the professional mask of an adult doing her job. That realization hurt me more deeply than any of the lies or insults ever had. After yet another day of isolated misery in an empty classroom, I returned home to find the words "cockroach nest" scrawled in huge letters across the side of my house. My mom was crouched beside the graffiti with a bucket and brush, tears in her eyes as she desperately tried to clean it off. Her teeth were tightly clenched as if to keep the sobs inside. They'd made her cry. They'd made my stout-hearted mom weep as miserably as a child, hit by a wave of inexpressible, overwhelming sadness. I fell to my knees on the spot. Is other people's misery really that much fun to you? The reality had nothing to do with it. They weren't even trying to look at the truth. All they wanted was an interesting story, and my suffering seemed to be highly entertaining to them. I could endure the slander and abuse, but at this rate, I would end up becoming a blight on my own family. I simply couldn't take any more. What did I survive for anyway? If I just died with everyone else in that valley, none of this would have happened. I wanted to turn back time. I wanted to go back into that ravine, to redo it all from the very start. I could see nothing in my future, so I fantasized about the past. Even so, I resigned myself to the present. I accepted the ridicule and ostracism of those around me. I'd stepped over the bodies of my friends to save myself. Surely I needed some punishment for that. Of course, no one was going to object to my suffering. It was the least I deserved. I could prostrate myself weeping in front of my friends' graves all I wanted, but no one was going to forgive me. Until I had suffered more than those who had died, no one would approve of my continued existence. This was my punishment for surviving. I accepted it. I knew that I couldn't expect clemency, but even so, I desperately needed someone to give me the hope that it might end, that someday I might be forgiven. Self-loathing was my only means of atonement, and it was a feeble counterweight against the sin I was committing with every breath I drew. I was gradually driven into a corner. How wonderful would it have been to run from it all, to shed the weight of what I'd done, but the punishment for surviving was impossible to escape. I had no choice but to bear it. I tried to be strong. I tried to act cheerfully in the face of it all, but it was so very hard. The slightest smile on my face would inspire condemnation. How could she laugh after what happened? If I ran away from their words, they'd condemn that as well. My crimes would never be forgiven. Every once in a while, I dreamed at night. Always the same nightmare. Always in the same place, the depths of that hellish jungle. In the gloomy forest, the girls from the basketball club sat on the roots of trees, still and quiet. One by one, they slowly died. The corpses lay against the trunks of the trees, swelling up with gas like gruesome balloons. Their faces had been bloated from the start by their severe malnutrition. Soon it was impossible to tell where their eyes had been. Eventually, their mouths creaked open, and the gas inside their bodies began to leak out into the humid air with a sound like a ghostly moan. Before long, those faint sounds would become voices. Amane, Amane, help me, Amane. I don't want to die, Amane. It hurts so much, Amane. Why only you? Why, Amane? Why won't you help me? Hey, Amane! I'd lost count of how many times I'd woken up screaming in the middle of the night. Going to sleep had become terrifying. But even awake, I could hear the voices whispering in my ear. The voices of my friends calling my name. When I turned back, there was no one. Even so, I heard the whispers constantly. Asleep or awake, someone was always cursing me. My guilt was ever present, crushing. I had no refuge. In time, I lost the ability to distinguish between reality and my dreams. Even awake, I screamed at phantoms. Sometimes I thought about just dying, but I couldn't commit suicide. If I took my own life, I'd be branded for all eternity as a coward who fled from the punishment her actions had earned. Maybe someone would be so kind as to kill me instead. A random violent death at another's hand might well be my only possible salvation. If someone killed me, I could escape without having fled from my responsibility. If someone would only punish me. Yes, that was it. Every time someone harassed or tormented me, it felt as though the weight of the sin on my shoulders grew a little lighter. If I could live my life entirely for someone else's sake, maybe someday I'd be forgiven. But for that role, I needed someone who would punish me for the sin of surviving. So that when moments of happiness found me, when I laughed, I could simply offer a silent apology to the dead. I needed someone who would give me an excuse for when the voices whispered in my ear. I needed an answer to their resentful curses. See, I'm getting exactly what I deserve. I absolutely needed that. In the end, I wasted years and years of my life waiting for someone who could bring me that hollow, self-serving comfort.
そんな時、私に罰を与えるのにふさわしい男が現れた。私を助けるために自分を犠牲にした風見和樹。その風見和樹の弟、遺族、それがユージだった。ずっと黙っててごめんね、ユージ。私はね、あんたのお姉ちゃんを犠牲にして生き残った惨めな卑怯者なんだよ。ごめんなさい。
Still staring into my eyes, Amane sniffles miserably. I see. My body feels as stiff and wooden as the words coming out of my mouth. It takes all my effort just to nod. I understand. Some sins can never be forgiven. No matter how many times we apologize, the dead can never come back.
ずっと言おうと思ってたんだよ。謝ろうと思ってた。でも私ね、事故の後一度だけ和樹の家に行ったことがあるの。家族の人には本当のことを全部話そうって思ってた。信じてもらえなくても、ひどく責められても構わない。でも一言謝りたいってずっと思ってた。でも和樹の家には、近所の人に話を聞いたら、1年も前にご両親が離婚されて、それからずっと空き家だって。離婚の原因は和樹が事故で死んだからだって聞かされた。私がユージの家族をめちゃくちゃにしちゃったんだって、そう思ったら怖くて言い出せなかったんだよ。
True enough, Kazuki's death was the catalyst of my parents' divorce. But what came after, the real disintegration of my family, that was inevitable. My father's death and my mother's suicide were inescapable, fated events. Amane had nothing to do with any of that. In either way, making her into a scapegoat won't change the past.
だから私がユージと初めて会った時、私がユージからお姉ちゃんを奪ってしまったのなら、だったらせめて和樹の代わりになろうって、そう思ったの。私なんかじゃ和樹の代わりにはならない。そんなのは私に都合がいいだけの逃げだってそう分かっていても、他にできることなんてなかった。だから何を言われても逆らわない、優しいお姉ちゃんになろうって、そう決めた。ユージが望むなら何でもしてあげようって思う。キスされるぐらいどうってことない。それ以上望まれても断るつもりはなかった。 何をされても絶対に文句は言わない。ユージが望むなら何でもしてあげようって思った。
They were after you.
抱かれるぐらいどうってことない。どうせ一度は諦めた命だし、和樹の代わりに生き残った命だもん。
Kazuki distracted them so you could get away.
私はユージの本当のお姉ちゃんじゃない分、本当のお姉ちゃんにはできないこともしてあげようって決めたの。
Hold on, Amane. I want to make sure I'm clear on something. In other words, you approached me out of a sense of responsibility, not any romantic feelings. I'm not going to get angry about it at this point. Give me the honest truth.
正直に言うとね、別にユージのことは嫌いではないけど、好きというほどのめり込んでいるわけでもなかった。都合のいい女でいてあげるのが私の罰だって、そう思ってた。生き残った罰としては全然軽いと思ってた。それでもユージに抱かれると少し気分が軽くなったの。ユージに抱かれるたびに私は自分の中の罪が軽くなっていくような気がしたの。私にとってのユージは後ろめたさを埋めるための道具でしかなかった。
I see. A convenient woman like that is obviously too good to be true. So this is the source of that unease I could never manage to shake. This is why I couldn't get rid of that lingering doubt, always squirming in the back of my mind. I don't know many women prone to falling in love with virtual strangers. Over time, I'd halfway convince myself Amane was just a special case. But as I suspected from the start, there was something else behind all that.
でもね、こんなこと言ってもきっと信じてくれないと思うけど、私ユージのこと本当に好きになっちゃったんだよ。
Dated him out of guilt.
それじゃダメなんだよ。
I don't even know how to feel about that.
それじゃ罰じゃなくなっちゃう。気がつけば収まってた悪夢とか幻覚とか幻聴がまた復活して、みんなが私を責めるんだよ。またお前だけ幸せになるのかって。もっとずっと強い罰が必要なのに、これ以上ユージを好きになっちゃダメなのに。どんなに好きになっても私の行く場所にユージを連れてはいけない。私一人で行かなければいけないのに。もうこれで最後にしよう。本当のことを打ち明けてこの人とは別れようっていつもそう思うのに。次の日の朝に目を覚ませば、もう一日だけ明日になったら別れを切り出そうって思うようになって、いつの間にかずるずると。怖かったんだよ。何度もあんたのお姉ちゃんを見殺しにしたのは私だよって言おうと思った。そう口にしてしまいたかったのに。でもそれを口にすればきっとユージは私の前からいなくなる。どんなに謝っても私が見捨てた和樹は生き返らない。だからごめんね。
So, in other words, she went in reluctantly, but now she's pretty much enjoying herself. In the first place, why are Amane's romantic feelings the first thing on my mind here? my sister, my family, all that is just a messy, ugly pain. Very, very painful thing for me. In the end, I think I'm much more concerned about what comes next. At times like these, the fundamental strategy is to hear out the woman's story and throw in a few vague responses here and there, but I think I may need to say something pretty soon.
Ne Yuji.
Yes.
私を殺してくれない。
Say what?
私はこんなことでしか罰を受けられない。こんなことでしか許しを得られない。だったらもうユージに殺してもらうしかないの。ごめんね。
What are you talking about? Have you gone soft in the head? You expect me to kill someone who squeals like a piglet over a single chop to the head? Don't make me laugh. And that's another thing. Stop it with the "I'm sorry," will you? I can't stand that phrase. Those were the final words my mother left for me before her suicide. Utterly empty, barren words, words of surrender. Every time I hear that phrase, I remember myself the way I was. I remember my failure, my inability to act, and my chest throbs painfully. First off, don't try to mimic Kazuki, alright? I only had one sister, and she's gone now. Or what? Do you enjoy ripping open my old scars or something? This "I'm sorry" chorus of yours is putting me in a lousy mood. I'm telling you to stop that, idiot. I mean, weren't you Kazuki's classmate? Didn't she ever tell you not to say sorry so much? Very well then, allow me to increase your repertoire of phrases, you mush-brained parrot. Repeat after me. Thank you.
ありがとう。
Every time you feel a sorry crawling up your throat, change it to "thank you" before it gets out of your mouth. That's your punishment. Don't even think about dropping your apologies on me, arbitrarily deciding you've been forgiven, and flying off into the night. Got that?
私バカだからよくわかんない。どういうこと？
You really are a dim-witted woman, you know that? Curses, how am I supposed to explain this? I'm just as dim-witted. Let me think for a while. You're a distraction, woman. Go sit on your heels and reflect on your idiocy. I'm going to get my thoughts together. Sit. To be honest, so much just got dumped on me at once that my head can't keep up. What am I supposed to think about all this? First, there's Amane's past. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I don't care. From what I read in the diary, she did nothing wrong. Kazuki's decision was understandable. I probably would have done the same thing in her place. If anything, Kazuki's at fault for enjoying that nice heroic death, leaving all the messy, angsty business of surviving to her friend. For one thing, I'm still not fully convinced Kazuki would die as easily as that. But either way, that's not the problem. The past is the past. Nothing can be done about any of that now. You can spit out as many what ifs and if onlys as you want, but unless you're using them as a reference for next time, it's a meaningless exercise. The only thing that matters now is what we do next. Couldn't have said it better. Amane. Amane.
なんでしょう。
All said and done, you love me, yes, confirm or deny.
そう、ごめん。いや、ありがとう。
Very well, sit.
ワン。
Amane said she loves me. So how about my own feelings at the matter? I've thought them over many, many times. I'm pretty sure by now. I love Amane. I'm a bit ashamed to say it, but on a purely practical basis, I doubt there's another woman in the world as convenient as her. Then again, is that really all there is to it? As I fold my arms in thought, I find my eyes have come to rest on a beautifully folded work uniform. I seriously don't care at all. It was Kazuki's choice to do that. My job is pretty rough on the clothes. They snag on thorny bushes, rip against walls, and drag along the ground. More often than not, I come back with a number of holes in my uniform. It was only a few days ago that I realized those holes were being repaired. Out on a job, I'd happened to glance at the elbow of my uniform, where a torn sleeve had been neatly stitched back together. A colleague, noticing as I stared at the careful needlework, asked, "Your wife sewed that up for you?" And the words, "Guess so," slipped out of my mouth. Startled by my own reply, I thought long and hard about what Amane was to me. While wearing the clothes she mended for me and stuffing my mouth with the one she packed for me, I pondered the matter. What about Amane had I fallen in love with anyway? Her looks, true, she was definitely an attractive woman from any angle. The long hair and nice scent didn't hurt either. She accepted everything I did without a word or complaint. And she was up for anything, anytime. But at the end of the day, I don't think that had much to do with it. I can't express it too well, but what really stood out was the way she mended my clothes without a word. And the way she always made a lunch for me. Right, she always did so much for me. Amane worked as hard as she could to make one dull man's life a little less miserable, and it made me happy. Even if Amane had been unbelievably ugly, I would have fallen for her. By the same token, whatever happened in the past, I'm not going to stop loving her. That feeling isn't going anywhere, no matter what.
何？
Nothing. Shut your trap, I'm still thinking.
はーい。
Still sitting ramrod straight on her heels, Amane's face droops like a pouting puppy given the command to wait. Studying her comically forlorn expression, I move on to consider the final problem. I could simply tell her, "You're forgiven," on the spot, but there's no way that would resolve the issue. If anything, my forgiveness will inspire her to go looking for a new punishment, driving her to erratic, even dangerous behavior. In that case, alright, Amane, the matter's been decided. On your feet.
ちょっと待って。足がしびれて。
Right then. I'll help you up. Here.
ありがとう。よいしょっと。それで、私はどうすれば。
I've thought this over pretty carefully, but let me make one thing clear first. I don't intend to take pity on you because of your past.
うん。
Everyone has a regret or two. It's a natural part of being alive. That said, I also understand yours is a particularly complicated, painful one. Telling you forget it or don't worry about it would be a waste of breath. Remorse that deep isn't just going to stop tormenting you. You might well end up carrying it on your shoulders for the rest of your life. And this idea that your current good deeds can somehow redeem you for what happened in the past is a load of self-serving crap. You've got no choice but to receive your punishment for the rest of your life. I'm not really old or wise enough to say that's life, like some sort of authority on the matter. But at the very least, I think I'm better accustomed to living with suffering than you. Therefore, I will now arrogantly throw my conclusion in your face. Accept it gratefully. You asked me to kill you just now, right?
言った。
Not attached to your life.
私の命が欲しいって言うなら、ユージにあげる。
I see. Alright, I accept. From this moment forth, you're going to live the rest of your life for my sake.
え？
It's just some crappy life you picked up off the ground in the mountains, right? Can't be worth that much to you. I'll take it off your hands. What now? You have a problem? Too bad. You gave your life to me, so I can do whatever the heck I want with it. You have no right to complain.
なんだろう、もうちょっとわかりやすく説明してもらえると嬉しいんだけど。
Nothing to explain. Nothing's really going to change. Just keep doing what you're doing. Live for my sake. Devote yourself to me. I'm the king. You're my pet dog. Got it?
変わらないってどういうこと？
Do you have a wad of marshmallow fluff for a brain? Fine. I'll put it even more simply and rudely. Curse you. How dare you leave my sister to die? I'll never forgive you. You're my slave for life. Understood? If you understand, bark like a dog, you filthy mutt. Amane, stay with me for the rest of your life. That's your punishment.
じゃあさ、もしかして私、ずっとユージのそばにいてもいいの？
I just answered this question. Not only can you, you're going to. I'll smack you silly if you try to disappear on me. Keep that in mind.
ユージ。
What now?
ユージ。
Spit it out already. Also, I'm not a submachine gun. You know something? You always make this ridiculously ugly face when you cry.
ひどいよ。こんな時ぐらい泣かせてよ。
There. Okay, this is getting annoying already. I'll give you 5 minutes maximum.
ユージ、優しくないよ。
I was nice, it'd hardly be a punishment. As Amane breaks down into tears, I wrap my arms around her and hug her tightly to my chest. There's only one way I can save this woman. And it's not by trying to break the curse of her past. I'll simply accept everything. Knowing her past, knowing her trauma, I'll accept it all. I'll provide her with the punishment she needs. There's no other way. Hey, she's a little more deserving of forgiveness than Kyo from Quinad. Someday, Amane will surely come to understand. The only person she needs to ask for forgiveness is herself. She's still better than Kyo. Until then, I'll be a burden for her to bear. I'll eat her guilt. I'll be her punishment. I'll offer her forgiveness, even if no one else in the world does. No matter what anyone says, I'll give her absolution. If I simply stay by her side, someday her penance will reach its end. I know it will. The day will surely come when Amane can forgive herself. With two people that don't deserve forgiveness at all, she's a little more... she's a little better. Even after those revelations, there haven't been any major changes in my life with Amane. The only real differences that come to mind, Amane's calmed down on the physical clinginess. And I've started to notice subtle shifts in her emotions. From what Sakaki tells me, this had been going on frequently even before now, but when something happy or fun happens, Amane tends to get a slightly brooding look on her face. Now that I understand these signs of her self-reproach and guilt for what they are, I admonish her. You're ought to smile. Sometimes I outright order her to do so. And although I know she's still thinking, a cowardly insect like me has no right to be happy, she always manages to give me a sweet, artful smile in response. Amane once told me I had a crappy excuse for a smile, and now I understand why she saw through it so easily. She's a far more experienced master of the forced smile. It might sound like a joke, but it seems that Takizono Private Academy actually had formal lessons on how to push your face into an elegant smile. Kazuki had always been even worse at smiling than I was. Imagining her desperately trying to contort her face into a friendly simper is absurdly amusing. Hey Amane, tell me something. That smiling lesson or whatever, I assume Kazuki participated in it as well.
どうだろう。私 D 組だったから A 組の和樹とは授業が一緒になることはなかったし。
Just thinking about it makes you laugh. Kazuki curtsying politely in time to the teacher's piano with a beaming smile on her face. I think I'd pay money to see that.
確かに。っていうか、和樹のそんな姿を見たら逆に笑えないような気もするけどね。
Come to think of it, when Kazuki was still a grade schooler, I did see her practicing her smile once.
嘘？あの和樹が？
Not sure when this was exactly, but Kazuki came to deliver something I'd forgotten to my classroom. A classmate came up to me afterward and asked me about her. Why is your big sister always so cranky in this kind of scared little voice? Of course, I said that's just normal for her. When I returned home, I told Kazuki, one of the kids in my class thinks you're kind of scary. Guess it was a little bit of a shock even for her. She started practicing her smile in front of the mirror after her bath. Funny, right?
そうだね。
You're allowed to smile yourself, you know, or even laugh.
分かってる。もう笑って話せる時期だってのは分かってるんだけどね。
Smiling is the duty of those who are left behind. Please try.
でも私和樹のことを思い出すとやっぱり
No good, huh? From reading the contents of Amane's diary, I understand that she worshipped Kazuki like a god. Odds are, given her my standard order to smile now would only worsen her suffering. To be honest, the topic of my sister still stings a bit for me as well. But I guess I've developed my own way of coping with it. Amane, tell me something. Do you really believe Kazuki's dead?
それってどういう意味？
Exactly what it sounds like. To be honest, I don't really buy it. Certainly, she's dead on paper, and they did find something that was thought to be Kazuki's corpse at the site. But I just can't believe she died that easily.
それは私だって信じたくはないけど。
I'm going to get into slightly gruesome territory here, alright? The corpse of Kazuki they found on the site had been cut to pieces. You know that as well, right? But for some reason, they never found her head. What do you think of that? She gave you a hint herself, didn't she? A long time ago, Kazuki told me about a swindle where careful cutting and pasting makes 10,000 yen notes into 11 slightly smaller ones. And she showed you a similar trick with 11 carats. Corpses aren't any different. Just as an example, if you happen to have 10 of them lying around, you could probably make 11, don't you think?
Uso, だってそんなことが人間と人参は違うよ。
Not to Kazuki, they aren't.
じゃあ和樹は生きてるの？
I don't know that. If she is alive, why hasn't she shown herself to us? It's all a mystery. But there's one thing I'm confident about. I don't think Kazuki would accept death that easily. And she always did have a number of personalities, characters she'd play. By now, she might well be casually going about her business somewhere as a totally different person. I can't shake that feeling. At the time, 13 corpses were discovered at the crash site. Many of them had been horribly damaged. But the numbers matched. The investigators didn't have any reason to be suspicious, and the corpses were roughly identifiable. There was no point in DNA testing. Given the dismembered, partially consumed state of many of the bodies, a few missing parts wouldn't have inspired any serious doubts. And of course, Kazuki's head was never discovered. When they discovered the corpses, they did investigate the cause of death, but there was no DNA testing performed.
Kazuki が生きている?
No, I'm just saying it's possible to think that way. It's not like I have any real evidence.
でも和樹は言ったよ。私は死なないって。いつか必ずまた会えるからって。確かに言ってた。
Right, but look, Amane, I'm not seriously trying to push this theory on you. All I meant was thinking Kazuki might still be alive somewhere might help you find the courage to... You're not listening to a word I say, are you? Hold on, where are you going all of a sudden? Apparently remembering something, Amane dashes off as if stung by a whip. I follow her as she flies up the stairs, throws open the door to her room, and begins rummaging around vigorously in her closet. Hello, Amane? Amane-san? Anyone home?
あんたこれ見て。
What's this? Pulling out a storage case that had been carefully tucked away in the back of her closet, Amane takes out a sheaf of yellowed memo paper, wrinkled and stained by patches of dried mud. Even at a glance, I immediately recognize the familiar handwriting lining those pages. That's Kazuki's writing, isn't it?
そう、それは和樹が私のために用意してくれた密林脱出メモだよ。
I take the leaves of paper, probably ripped out of a small notepad, from Amane's hand. First, there's a rough map of the area around the camp. No doubt the product of Kazuki's independent investigations. She also included a number of methods to ascertain direction within the forest, including orientation by the stars. If your path ahead seems overly difficult, don't hesitate to take a detour. And when you think your physical strength may be failing you, take a rest. Use the time to discard items from your rucksack, beginning with the heavy and inessential. The soil is full of volcanic rock and dense minerals, so the tree's roots are shallow and twisted. Also, their access to sunlight is irregular. For these reasons, the direction of their growth won't be a reliable navigational tool. Maintaining pressure on your ankles offers some relief from swelling. Wear 2 sets of socks and pull them to the calf. Your lactic acid buildup will be less severe. Just don't expect this to offer much protection against leashes. Very methodical. That's Kazuki for you.
でね、ここ見て。
If you fail to escape, huh?
和樹が残したメモには脱出に失敗したら居留地に戻ってこいって書いてあって、和樹が非常食を隠した穴の位置が記された地図があったの。
I see. Judging from the fact that she wrote these notes, Kazuki must have known from the start there was a good chance she'd be making her escape alone.
Mm. きっと和樹はこうなることを予想してたんだと思う。
But what made this come to mind all of a sudden?
あのさ、もしだよ。 もし和樹が生きているとしたら、今和樹がどこにいるのかってヒントはここにあると思うんだよね。
Here, at the scene of the accident.
うん、そう。和樹が私に最後に残したものってきっとこの非常食を埋めた穴の中にあるんじゃないかな。和樹は事故の翌日、 シャベルを抱えて一人で森の中に入っていった。あれってバスの中から回収した食料とかを埋めに行ってたんだと思うんだ。和樹は時々一人でふっといなくなることがあって、ずいぶんトイレの近い子なんだなって思ってたけど、多分頻繁にその穴に何かを隠しに行ってたんじゃないかって。
I see. That sounds like the only realistic possibility of finding any clue that might lead us to Kazuki.
そう。それに、もし和樹が死んでいたとしても、最後の遺品がそこに残されているってこと。ねえユージ、行ってみない？
Go to the scene? That seems... I mean, you...
確かにまだきついかもしれない。苦しい思い出ばっかり詰まってる場所だしね。でもいつかは克服しなければいけないことだと思うし、それにユージが一緒に行ってくれるなら多分大丈夫だと思うんだ。
I see.
まあちょっとしたデートだと思ってさ。悪いけど付き合ってよ。
Yeah, alright. The very next morning, we borrowed the mini truck from the school, packed the box lunches Amane made, and readied ourselves to set off for the scene of the accident. At first, we planned to go by train, but the nearest station turned out to be more than 10 kilometers away from the mountain. Driving's far more convenient. The plan's to make our way to the site, park in the lot at the foot of the mountain, and walk from there. But fortunately... there has apparently been a memorial erected on the site of the crash, which means a path up the mountain was created as well. We shouldn't have to worry about getting lost. When we first decided on this trip, I'd imagined a grueling hike through the woods. But it turns out the memorial is only 2.8 kilometers from the parking lot at the foot of the mountain. We don't need any particularly elaborate plans for the walk itself, but on an emotional level, some preparations are still necessary.
So れじゃあ私、お供え用のお花とお線香を買ってくるから、ここで少し待ってて。
Yeah, I got it. Parking the mini truck near the Mishima train station, Amane slowly lowers herself out of the driver's seat. Not that it's any surprise, but she seems a little awkward and subdued. Watching Amane walk up with purse in hand, dragging her feet like an exhausted office worker heading off to buy her low-calorie lunch, I heave a little sigh. To be perfectly honest, it's not like I seriously believe Kazuki's alive. I'm sure it's the same for Amane. If anything, this visit to the scene of her ordeal has more to do with Amane facing her own memories head on. I don't think the secret stash of Kazuki's is particularly meaningful. My hopes aren't exactly high for some sort of clue. I'm just praying we don't end up digging something unpleasant. If Kazuki left her last will and testament or something in that hole, Amane might come out of this bearing even deeper wounds than before. Even so, it's been many years since the accident. After all this time, Amane's finally gained the courage to return. That feels like a significant change. Maybe she'll be able to start coming to terms with what happened. Maybe her burden will grow a little lighter. The point of visiting a grave is to bring comfort to those left behind. That's a firm belief of mine. I might have been a little too lost in thought. I didn't notice the man approaching until he was standing immediately behind me.
Kazami Yuji-san ですよね。
Yes? What? The man seemed to pop out of nowhere. Concealing my surprise, I turned slowly to face him. Did he just call me by name? I'm not famous enough to be recognized by random strangers on the street. I carefully observe his face, then look over his clothing from head to toe with a single sweep of my eyes. Who is this? A man with a light build, most likely in his mid-40s. I don't recognize the face. Even though it's the middle of summer, he's wearing a windbreaker jacket, as though headed out on a fishing trip. He's got a hunting cap on top of his noticeably graying hair, and a beat-up old pair of long boots on his feet. On the whole, he leaves a pretty shabby impression, but the cologne he's wearing isn't cheap, and the glasses on his face are a first-class name brand. I don't remember him as a local shop owner or anything, but if he's just some tourist come to fish in the sea, it makes no sense that he'd know my name. Excuse me, but who are you?
おっとっと、ですよね。これは失礼。私は坂下と申しましてね、天音さんの大ファンなんですよ。最近何ですか。ああ、天音さんに彼氏ができたと小耳に挟みましてね、一度お会いしてみたいなと思っておったのですよ。
You came here just to meet me.
いえいえいえいえ、今日ここでお会いしたのは偶然なんですけどね。たまたま天音さんとご一緒のところをお見かけしたもので、なぜか妙に嬉しくなってしまいましてね。ついお声をかけさせていただいたと、そういうことでして、はい。
Is that so? That's a load of crap. The story is dubious enough, but my intuition's telling me there's something insincere about the man. For one thing, he's forcing his face into a smile by jerking up the edges of his mouth. For another, his eyes are dark and cold, and there's a strange superficial gleam floating on the surface. They resemble two deep wells of oil. The man stinks. His body odor is normal enough, but something about him stinks. It's a familiar, unpleasant smell that makes the back of my nose tingle ominously. The scent of bloodlust, tinged with madness. Pardon me, but what do you do for a living?
ああ、まあ、こんな身なりですからね。わからんのも無理もない話ですな。ええ、実はつい最近まで IT 関連の会社の取締役をしてたのですが、どうにも生きがいというものをなくしてしまいましてね。急に仕事がバカらしくなったとでも言いますか、今はご覧の通り恥ずかしながら無職の身でしてね。
I see. Who is he? At the very least, he doesn't seem to be involved in my line of work. The face isn't familiar, but more importantly, he holds himself far too loosely for a pro. Even the languid suits who spend most of their time behind desks project a little more menace than this.
それでもね、会社を畳んでみて初めて分かったことというものもありましてね。真っ白だった私の頭の中にぽつりと目標のようなものが浮かんできたんですわ。目標なんて言ったら少し大げさかもしれませんね。なんと言いますかね。やり残したことがまだあったんだなって気がついたんですよ。
Are you feeling alright?
何がでしょう。ああ、そうか。時間ですか。私は暇ですが、そうですね。いきなりこんな話を聞かされても退屈ですよね。すみません。
Not at all.
それじゃ私はこれで失礼します。くだらない話に付き合わせてしまってどうもすみませんでした。
The man abruptly turns around and walks right off, his small hunchback unsteadily swaying back and forth. I watched him as he goes, but all of a sudden he seems to have disappeared into thin air. What the... The sound of his footsteps, the faint smell of his cologne, the sight of his hunting cap leading forward. I can't pick up any trace of the man. He's melted into the low buzz of the station streets as if he was never here in the first place. Wasn't a ghost, was he? Of course, I don't really believe in any such thing, but that sudden appearance and equally abrupt exit were about as ghostly as it gets. I don't know. I'm getting a bad feeling from him. That is Chiaki's father. Bye.